Relax for a moment. Let go of the tension gripping your shoulders, the worries swirling in your chest, the relentless stream of thoughts that tell you life is hard, success is distant, and joy is conditional. You see, the only reason the universe feels complicated is because we have made our inner world complicated. We've forgotten the most natural, effortless truth, that everything you desire, everything you imagine, already belongs to you. The universe is not out there plotting against you. It's not testing you. It's responding to you. It's reflecting you. The moment you truly relax, you allow the power that has always been yours to move freely, unblocked, unresisted. You are not separate from the universe. You are not some powerless little creature waiting for permission to live the life you dream of. You are the center of creation itself. The universe doesn't manifest things for you by chance or by favor. It manifests everything by law, the law that your inner world writes the script and the outer world performs it. But most people never relax into that knowing. They grasp, they beg, they doubt, and in doing so, they interrupt the flow of what is already theirs. They look outside and say, I don't have it yet. And the universe simply mirrors that belief. It's not punishing them. It's not delaying them. It's simply following the precise instruction they've written with their dominant state of being. You are never supposed to struggle to make your dreams real. You are only ever supposed to imagine them, feel them, live them inwardly with such conviction that the universe has no choice but to unfold them around you like the turning of seasons, like the rising of the sun. Do you see the flowers forcing themselves to bloom? Do you see the tide arguing its way to shore? No, nature understands. Nature flows, and so must you. When you relax, when you drop the resistance, when you become still in your mind and certain in your heart, that is when the universe begins to organize everything in your favor. It gathers people, opportunities, coincidences, and unexpected paths all around you. But it doesn't do this because you begged long enough or struggled hard enough. It does this because you finally return to your natural state. The state of belief, the state of knowing, the state of receiving. Most people think they need to work harder to force manifestation. They believe the universe only responds to effort measured in exhaustion. But manifestation was never designed to be earned, it was designed to be allowed. And you allow it when you relax into the feeling of already being the person who has everything they desire. You walk, talk, breathe, and exist as though the wish is fulfilled, not tomorrow, not in the distant future, but now, in this present, in this eternal moment. It's not arrogance to live like this, it's not delusion, it's alignment. You aren't tricking the universe, you are reminding yourself of the truth. The truth that your imagination is not fantasy, it is creative law in motion. Every time you relax into that awareness, you dissolve the barriers of doubt, fear, and separation. You reclaim your role as the author of your experience, not the victim of circumstances. Understand this, the universe is not withholding from you, it is waiting for your inner permission. It is waiting for you to stop contradicting your desires with fear, impatience, and worry. And the moment you relax, the moment you rest in the certainty that you already are what you seek, that is the moment reality bends to your will. Your world shifts, paths clear, people appear, money flows, love gravitates toward you, health restores itself. So relax, not out of laziness, but out of knowing. Relax because the real work is already done within your imagination. Relax because the universe is precise, loyal, and unfailing. It does not question your vision, it reflects it. It does not delay your dream, it waits for your certainty. And when you finally exhale, when you finally let go of how, when, and why, that is when everything begins to unfold, quietly, effortlessly, as though it was always yours. Because it was. Because it is. The universe reflects your inner state, not your effort. This is one of the most misunderstood truths in the world of creation. Most people have been conditioned to believe that the harder they push, the more they sacrifice, the more they strive with visible effort, the more worthy they become of receiving what they desire. They carry this belief like a burden, grinding themselves down with exhausting action, believing that success, love, abundance, or peace is something to be earned through suffering. But they forget that the universe doesn't operate on the scale of human struggle. It operates on the scale of inner alignment. What you experience on the outside is not born from your physical effort alone. It is born from your persistent inner state. Your dominant thoughts, your quiet assumptions, the silent images you entertain before sleep, the feelings you dwell upon when no one is watching. These are the true architects of your reality. And the universe is never judging, never questioning your worthiness, never evaluating how hard you've worked. It simply mirrors the frequency you live in, moment by moment, like a cosmic echo chamber that only repeats back what you consistently send out. Look around at your life. The situations, the relationships, the level of success or struggle, all of it is a living reflection of your inner world. If your inner state is drenched in doubt, fear, limitation, and lack, your external world will faithfully reflect that back to you, regardless of how tirelessly you act. You can wake up at dawn, exhaust yourself with relentless motion, but if you carry the inner story that you're unworthy, unsupported, or unlucky, no amount of physical labor can override the reality your subconscious is projecting outward. Now, where do the words, on the other hand, a person who understands the power of their inner state can achieve what seems impossible, often with minimal visible effort. You've seen these people. They appear calm, detached, as though life flows to them effortlessly. Opportunities arise, connections form, abundance appears, and others watch in confusion, wondering how they've achieved so much with so little obvious struggle. The truth is, their outer success is born from an inner reality they've cultivated long before the world caught up. They have chosen thoughts of certainty, feelings of fulfillment, and imaginations soaked in the assumption that they're already who they desire to be. It's not about arrogance or delusion, it's about recognizing the blueprint of creation begins within. Your mind is the seedbed of your life. Every belief you plant, every image you nurture, every feeling you repeat is growing into form whether you realize it or not. The universe reads these inner instructions and materializes them faithfully, without deviation, without emotion, without preference. If you feel unworthy and think in terms of limitation, you will experience situations that validate those beliefs. If you feel worthy and think in terms of expansion, you will encounter people and events that align with that vision. There is no external authority gatekeeping your manifestations. You don't have to earn approval from the universe as though it were a strict parent handing out rewards for obedience. You are not in competition with others, and you are not climbing some cosmic ladder of worthiness. The only thing that dictates the timing and quality of your manifestations is the inner state you habitually occupy. Are you dwelling in fear or faith, lack or abundance, doubt or certainty? The answer to that question reveals the reality the universe is preparing to reflect back to you. Consider the way nature operates. A tree doesn't strain to grow, it simply aligns with the natural process coded within it. The seed doesn't question whether it deserves to become a towering oak, it simply follows the blueprint, effortlessly unfolding into its highest form. You are no different. Your inner state is your blueprint, and the universe is the fertile ground responding to the signals you plant there. But unlike the tree, you have the conscious ability to redesign your inner state at will. You are not bound by past beliefs unless you continue to entertain them. Most people become trapped in cycles of effort because they have not yet understood this law. They believe that action alone is the engine of creation. They hustle, they exhaust themselves, yet they carry an inner conversation of lack, of doubt, of smallness. Their results mirror that inner reality, and so they hustle harder, entering a cycle of frustration that deepens their belief that life is difficult and success is rare. But when you understand that the universe reflects your inner state, you step out of that exhausting loop. You begin to relax, knowing that your most important work happens within. You choose thoughts that align with your desires. You feel the emotions of already having what you seek. You imagine yourself as the person who already lives that reality. And then, naturally, effortlessly, your outer world begins to adjust. Situations rearrange, people appear, opportunities emerge, not because you forced them, but because you aligned yourself internally and allowed the universe to do what it does best: reflect. There is immense power in this awareness. You stop chasing and start receiving. You stop forcing and start allowing. You become a conscious creator, no longer at the mercy of external circumstances, no longer trapped in the illusion that you must sacrifice your peace to earn your desires. Instead, you cultivate peace within, and your desires unfold from that state as a natural consequence. When you look back at your life, you will realize that your greatest breakthroughs, your most unexpected blessings, often came not from the moments of frantic effort, but from the moments when you relaxed, when you believed, when you dwelled in the inner state of having already received. It wasn't chance, it was alignment. It wasn't luck, it was law. When you relax mentally and emotionally, you stop resisting your desires and allow the universe to organize reality in your favor. Most people live in a constant state of tension without even realizing it. They move through life with their minds clenched, their hearts guarded, and their thoughts racing like a storm that never settles. Their desires remain at arm's length, not because the universe is punishing them, but because their inner resistance creates an invisible wall between them and the very reality they seek. They dream of abundance, love, success, peace. Yet their dominant state is stress, doubt, and fear. And the universe, being a flawless mirror, reflects that energy back. The truth is simple yet profound. Manifestation is not an act of force, it is a process of alignment. And alignment cannot happen in the presence of tension. You cannot force yourself into a new reality while holding tightly to the belief that it hasn't arrived. You cannot strain your way into abundance while drowning in the feeling of lack. The more you tense, the more you block. The more you relax, the more you receive. When you finally relax, not out of exhaustion, but out of knowing, you create the space for the universe to do what it has always been designed to do. Rearrange the circumstances of your life according to your inner world. This is not a passive surrender that implies giving up. It is an active, conscious relaxation where you step into the feeling that all is well, that your desires are already unfolding, that the unseen forces of life are moving in perfect harmony on your behalf. You have to understand that reality is not as solid or rigid as it appears. The people, the situations, the opportunities, and even the obstacles are more fluid than you believe. The universe is in constant motion, always responding to the frequency you emit. But when your energy is clouded by mental noise, anxiety, and desperate action, you distort the signal. Your desires get tangled in fear. Your intentions become diluted with contradiction. You want love but believe you're unworthy. You want success but expect failure. You want peace but dwell in worry. This inner conflict creates static, and the universe, being obedient to your dominant state, mirrors that static back. Relaxation dissolves the static, it clears the noise, it aligns your energy with clarity, certainty, and openness. Imagine it like tuning a radio. If you're not relaxed, you're constantly turning the dial back and forth, never landing on the right frequency, frustrated by the static. But when you relax, when you trust, when you quiet your mind, the signal becomes clear, and suddenly the music plays effortlessly. Many believe that hard work alone is the solution, that only through relentless action will the universe reward them. But have you ever noticed that the most profound, life-changing opportunities often come when you least expect them? When you finally let go, when you stopped overthinking? It's not coincidence, it's the natural law revealing itself. Your relaxed state invites alignment. Your relaxed mind stops interfering with the process. This doesn't mean you abandon action altogether. It means your actions are inspired, flowing from a state of certainty rather than desperation. Relaxation brings clarity, and from that clarity you know when to move and when to wait. You know when to speak and when to be silent. You stop acting for the sake of controlling outcomes and start acting from the knowing that your desire is inevitable. People often ask, how do I know the universe is working for me? The answer is always the same. Relax and observe. When you relax your grip on life, you'll begin to notice subtle shifts. Conversations fall into place. Unexpected doors open. People appear who guide you forward. Synchronicities increase. You feel lighter, more certain, more connected. It's not magic. It's your natural state returning. The reason most never experience this is because they cannot quiet their inner dialogue long enough to let the process unfold. They demand instant proof. They obsessively check for signs. They waver between hope and doubt, creating an unstable vibration. But when you truly relax, when you lean back into the invisible currents of life, you begin to witness the orchestration happening all around you. Think of the ocean. The waves do not struggle to reach the shore. The tide does not force itself forward. It simply flows, guided by a natural intelligence beyond human comprehension. You are no different. The same intelligence that orchestrates the seasons, that causes the flowers to bloom, the planets to orbit, and the stars to shine, is operating within your life, if only you allow it. But allowing requires trust, and trust is born from relaxation. You cannot fake it. You cannot tense your way into belief. It happens when you consciously choose to let go of the mental chatter, the frantic thoughts, and the desperate timelines. You breathe, you center yourself, and you remember that the universe knows the shortest, most effortless route to your desire, even if your logical mind cannot yet see it. When you master this, life feels different. You move with ease. You notice opportunities you once overlooked. You attract circumstances without struggle. Your outer world becomes a reflection of your inner peace. Even the challenges that arise no longer shake you, because you've built your foundation on relaxation, trust, and certainty. And the most remarkable part is that this shift doesn't take years. It happens in the present moment, the very moment you choose to relax. Your body softens, your mind quiets, your heart opens. And in that state, you become receptive. You stop pushing against the current and begin to float with it. You stop asking, when will it happen? And you start living as though it already has. This is the state where manifestation accelerates. The universe, no longer met with your resistance, begins to orchestrate people, events, and circumstances in ways your conscious mind could never strategize. You meet the right person by chance. You hear the right words at the right time. You stumble upon the perfect opportunity. It feels effortless, but it is the direct result of your inner alignment. You realize that life was never about grinding yourself into the ground or battling unseen forces. It was always about relaxing into the truth that you are a creator, that your desires are valid, that your imagination holds power, and that the universe, when unresisted, is your greatest ally. You must embody the feeling of already having your desire. This inner conviction instructs the universe to materialize your imagined reality. Most people approach life backwards. They wait for the evidence before they allow themselves to feel the success, the love, the abundance, the peace they crave. They believe that only when they see the bank account grow, the relationship appear, the recognition come, can they finally relax into the feeling of being fulfilled. There are 6 days left in the year. Filter your feelings when they come. Can they finally relax into the feeling of being fulfilled? But the universe does not work in reverse. It doesn't deliver the thing first and the feeling after. It delivers the thing in response to the feeling that you sustain before the thing arrives. You see, your reality is not formed by external circumstances alone. It is shaped moment by moment by your dominant state of being. Your emotions, your thoughts, your inner assumptions. These invisible forces are constructing your outer world with far more precision than your actions ever could. To embody the feeling of already having what you desire is to become the person who no longer hopes, no longer doubts, but knows with absolute certainty that their reality is already shifted, and from that state of knowing, the physical world has no choice but to align. And the challenge is that most people resist this. They allow their senses to dictate their belief. They look around, see the absence of what they want, and decide that the absence is proof of lack. They feel unworthy, incomplete, disconnected. But the absence you observe is only a reflection of the inner state you have rehearsed. When you dwell in lack, lack grows. When you embody fulfillment, fulfillment reveals itself. The universe does not discriminate, it reflects. Imagine an actor preparing for a role. They do not wait for the movie to be complete before they step into character. They become the role in advance, mentally, emotionally, physically. They walk, speak, breathe, and think as though they are already that character. and the world responds accordingly. Your life works the same way. You are both the actor and the scriptwriter. When you live from the feeling of already being the person who has the success, the love, the peace, you collapse the gap between desire and reality. You send a signal so consistent, so unwavering, that the universe must respond. But this embodiment requires discipline of mind. It requires that you no longer entertain contradictory thoughts that deny your desire. You must refuse to rehearse scenarios of failure, rejection, or struggle. You must immerse yourself so deeply in the feeling of having already arrived that your mind accepts it as truth. And when your mind accepts it, your external world begins to rearrange itself. Many will say, but how can I feel successful when I am broke? How can I feel loved when I am alone? How can I feel peaceful when my world is chaotic? The answer is simple yet profound. You understand that your current circumstances are the residue of your past inner state, not the blueprint of your future. You stop reacting to what is, and you start creating what will be. You withdraw your emotional investment from the illusion of lack and reinvest it into the certainty of your vision. The feeling is the secret. It bypasses logic. It overrides external evidence. It bridges the seen and the unseen. When you live from the feeling of already having your desire, your subconscious accepts it as fact. Your thoughts, your actions, your energy align effortlessly, and you find yourself drawn to people, opportunities, and paths that reflect your new state. It feels coincidental, but it is law. Consider how children play. When a child imagines they are a superhero, they do not wait for confirmation from the world. They become the character instantly, without resistance, without doubt. In their mind, the imagined world is real, and their behavior, their emotions, their confidence reflect that inner world. This is not immaturity, it is pure, unfiltered creation. Adults, burdened by logic and fear, forget this truth, but the principle remains the same. Your outer world shapes itself around the reality you embody internally. Living from the feeling of already having your desire does not mean ignoring reality. It means choosing which reality to nourish with your energy. You acknowledge the present without becoming imprisoned by it. You hold the vision of your ideal life so vividly, so consistently, that the present begins to dissolve and reform to match your vision. And it happens not by force, but by alignment. The universe responds to energy, not words alone. You can say affirmations all day, but if your underlying feeling contradicts them, your reality will mirror the feeling, not the words. But when your words and your feelings harmonize, when you speak abundance and feel abundant, when you affirm love and feel loved, when you declare peace and feel peaceful, your life becomes a reflection of that alignment. This is why some manifest effortlessly while others struggle for years. It's not about deserving, it's about embodying. The universe is not selective or biased. It is obedient to the frequency you live in. When you dwell in lack, it reflects lack. When you dwell in fulfillment, it reflects fulfillment. You cannot deceive the universe with surface-level rituals while harboring doubt beneath, but you can transform your reality by cultivating the inner feeling of already being the person who has it all. This embodiment becomes your default state. You wake up with gratitude for the reality that is unfolding. You move through your day with confidence, knowing the unseen is arranging itself in your favor. You go to sleep with peace, no longer questioning the how or the when, but resting in the assurance that your desire is inevitable. Your inner world becomes so saturated with the feeling of success, love, health, or abundance that your external world cannot help but mirror. You begin to notice subtle shifts, conversations that lead to breakthroughs, encounters that feel destined, opportunities arising effortlessly. But these are not random. They are reflections of your sustained inner state. You no longer chase, you attract. You no longer doubt, you know. You no longer react, you create. To embody the feeling is to activate the creative law. To live as though your desire is fulfilled is to accelerate its arrival. The universe does not delay. It simply waits for your alignment. And when you embody the feeling, that alignment is instantaneous. The only delay is the time it takes you to believe, to feel, to know. The moment you do, reality follows. Your imagination is not fantasy, it is creative law in motion. The vast majority of people have been conditioned to believe that imagination is a child's game, a pleasant escape from reality, something whimsical but without substance. Yet, the deeper truth is that your imagination is the first stage of every creation you will ever witness in the physical world. Every structure, every invention, every relationship, every circumstance that exists today began as a formless image in the mind of someone who dared to believe in the unseen. Your life operates by this same principle. The images you entertain in the sanctuary of your mind are not idle pictures, floating without consequence. They are blueprints. They are instructions sent directly into the fabric of reality, quietly shaping the people, circumstances, and opportunities that will appear in your world. To dismiss imagination as fantasy is to abandon your most powerful creative tool. You see, the universe doesn't distinguish between what is physically present and what is vividly imagined. Your subconscious mind responds to images, feelings, and inner dialogues, and it projects those onto the canvas of your external life. You can look at your current reality as a mirror reflecting the images you've rehearsed in your mind repeatedly. If your imagination is filled with lack, limitation, and fear, your life reflects situations that validate those feelings. If your imagination is filled with situations that validate those feelings, but when your imagination is alive with images of abundance, love, peace, and fulfillment, your outer world begins to rearrange itself to reflect those visions. The challenge is that most people misuse their imagination without realizing it. They worry, they doubt. They rehearse worst-case scenarios, and they dwell on memories that confirm their fears. That too is imagination, but used unconsciously, destructively. The creative law is always in motion, whether you use it wisely or not. You are always imagining something, and the universe is always listening, always responding, always reflecting. True mastery begins when you consciously reclaim your imagination as a sacred space of creation. When you deliberately fill your mind with images that affirm your desires, when you dwell in the vision of already being who you wish to be, you set the creative law into motion with precision. You are not begging the universe to change, you are instructing it by the inner pictures you sustain. Think of the architect. Long before a building rises from the earth, it exists in detailed drawings, precise blueprints, imagined lines and forms that only the mind can see. The physical structure follows the invisible plan. So too does your life. Your imagination holds the design, and your reality manifests in accordance with it. But this requires faith in the unseen. The physical world is slow to reflect the immediate shift happening within, and impatience tempts many to abandon their vision too soon. They imagine briefly, then look around and see no change, and their doubt overpowers their belief. But the creative law is not interrupted by delay. It works with consistency. The more consistently you imagine, the more unwavering your vision, the sooner reality bends to that inner picture. You are never at the mercy of circumstances unless you choose to be. You are only ever at the mercy of your imagination. If you imagine failure, life provides it. If you imagine rejection, life confirms it. But if you imagine success, love, abundance, joy, even in the face of current conditions that deny it, life has no choice but to reorganize itself around those dominant images. Children understand this naturally. They play with imaginary worlds, they believe in their games, and for them, those imagined realities feel utterly real. There is power in that innocence, in that pure, unfiltered belief. Adults, drowned in logic and fear, dismiss imagination as trivial, and in doing so, they abandon the very mechanism that governs their lives. But the creative law does not stop functioning simply because you refuse to consciously engage it. Whether you choose images of fear or images of fulfillment, the law is active. It is always translating your inner world into your outer experience. This is why it's not enough to merely hope for change. You must live from the vision of change as though it is already complete within you. And when you close your eyes and see yourself as the person you desire to be, when you feel the emotions of already living that reality, your subconscious accepts it as truth. The universe responds, not to the empty words or desperate wishes, but to the clarity of your inner vision. The more you immerse yourself in that vision, the faster reality conforms to it. And you must protect your imagination from contamination. Doubt, fear, negative conversations, the opinions of others. These are seeds of distortion planted in the fertile ground of your mind. If you allow them to grow, they choke out your vision. But when you guard your imagination, when you cultivate it with discipline and care, your inner world becomes a sanctuary of certainty, and your outer world reflects that sanctuary with precision. There is no force outside of you dictating your limits. Your only limits are the boundaries you set within your own imagination. If you believe something is impossible, it remains impossible not because the universe forbids it, but because your imagination rejects it. But when you expand your vision, when you dare to imagine boldly, the boundaries dissolve. Your imagination is the canvas, your thoughts are the brush strokes, your feelings are the colors that bring life to the picture, and your reality is the gallery displaying the finished work. If you dislike the display, change the image. It begins and ends within you. Every great accomplishment, every love story, every act of abundance, every moment of peace was first an invisible image in the mind of its creator. You are that creator now. The universe waits not for permission, but for your clear, unwavering vision. And when you lived within that vision, when you nourish it with feeling and certainty, the creative law moves mountains to reflect it in your world. The universe doesn't reward effort, it responds to certainty. This is one of the most liberating truths a person can ever embrace. Yet it remains hidden beneath the conditioning of the world. From the moment we are born, we are taught that the harder we strive, the more worthy we become. We are told that suffering earns success, that exhaustion earns love, that sacrifice earns abundance. But this belief system only entangles people deeper into cycles of frustration, because they pour energy into action without addressing the foundation of all creation, their inner state. The universe is not measuring your sweat, your tears, or your struggles to decide when and if you are ready to receive. The universe is not an external judge sitting somewhere above, calculating your worthiness based on how much pain you've endured. The universe operates by law, not by emotion, and the law is simple. What you consistently feel and believe within, the universe reflects without. It doesn't require your exhaustion, it requires your certainty. Certainty is a state of being where you no longer question whether your desires are possible. You no longer beg, chase, or grasp desperately for external validation. You reside in the quiet, unwavering knowing that what you desire is already unfolding, even if your physical senses have yet to confirm it. You become anchored in the invisible, grounded in faith, calm amidst the noise of circumstances. And from that certainty, life begins to mirror your inner world. But most people live in a constant state of contradiction. They act as though they believe, but their dominant inner dialogue is soaked in doubt. They say the words, they repeat the affirmations, but beneath the surface, they question, they waver, they second guess. The universe listens not to the surface level words, but to the vibration beneath them. And when that vibration is uncertainty, fear, or unworthiness, the reflection will always match. You've seen this pattern, people who hustle endlessly yet seem to stay stuck as though no amount of visible action ever shifts their reality. And then there are those rare individuals who move with ease, whose lives seem to unfold effortlessly, who attract opportunities, love, abundance, without appearing to struggle. The difference is not luck. It is not external favor. It is the silent, powerful force of inner certainty. Certainty is not arrogance. It is not blind ignorance of reality. It is an intimate understanding of how creation works. You recognize that your reality is delayed only by your own resistance, by your own uncertainty. You understand that when you sustain the feeling of already being the person who has what they desire, the universe aligns with that state. You don't wait for evidence to believe. You believe and the evidence arrives. You don't need the world to approve your vision before you relax into the knowing. You relax first. You embody the vision and life reorganizes to match. This is not philosophy, it is law, precise and unfailing. Think about the times when something you desired came easily, unexpectedly. Maybe it was an opportunity, a relationship, a solution to a problem. If you examine those moments closely, you'll notice a pattern. You were relaxed, certain, detached from the outcome. You weren't forcing life to cooperate. You weren't wrapped in anxiety. You were simply aligned, perhaps even unaware of how aligned you were, and the universe responded with precision. On the other hand, think of times you desperately wanted something, when you pushed harder, tried harder, obsessed over the outcome. The more frantic your energy, the more elusive the desire became. The universe was not punishing you. It was reflecting your uncertainty, your resistance, your contradiction. This is why true creation begins not with action, but with alignment. You can act from fear, or you can act from certainty. The outer motion may look similar, but the results will be worlds apart. When you act from fear, the universe amplifies that fear through delay, obstacles, and missed opportunities. When you act from certainty, the universe amplifies that certainty with synchronicities, open doors, and effortless progress. Certainty requires discipline of mind. It demands that you become aware of your internal state more than your external conditions. You must train yourself to feel the reality of your desire before the world reflects it. You must hold your vision steady when appearances suggest otherwise. You must withdraw your attention from lack, doubt, and fear and reinvest it into the feeling of fulfillment, even when the evidence is invisible. The universe is not holding your desire hostage. It is not testing your patience. It is responding to the energetic instruction you emit consistently. When that instruction is contradiction, life reflects confusion. When that instruction is certainty, life reflects alignment. But certainty cannot be faked. You cannot pretend to believe while secretly doubting. The energy beneath the words always reveals the truth. This is why the journey inward matters most. You must sit with yourself, dissolve the fears, quiet the doubts, release the mental noise. You must cultivate the feeling of already having, already being, already living your desire. And when you do, the external world follows. The most successful creators understand this. They may appear confident, calm, magnetic, but their true power lies not in appearance, but in their inner certainty. They have rehearsed their vision within so vividly, so consistently, that reality has no choice but to conform. They are not pushing life into place, they are allowing life to align, because their certainty leaves no room for contradiction. Continue. You have that same ability. You are not excluded from this law. It does not discriminate. It does not favor the lucky or the privileged. It responds only to the dominant state you sustain. And when that state is certainty, unwavering, consistent, rooted in the knowing that your desire is already yours, the universe reflects it with absolute precision. You are never chasing what is already destined for you. You are only aligning with it. And alignment happens not through exhaustion, but through certainty. When you understand this, life transforms. The desperate striving ends. The anxiety dissolves. The obstacles lose their power. You move through the world anchored in quiet confidence, and the universe, always listening, always reflecting, reorganizes itself to fulfill the vision you carry within. Let the tension melt out of your shoulders. You've been running again, this time not with your feet, but with your thoughts. You've built walls inside your mind and called it peace. You've mistaken distance for wisdom, silence for maturity, and emotional withdrawal for strength. But I ask you now, who taught you that to protect yourself meant to disappear from others? The great paradox of being human is that we are born into separation, yet crave union. We come into this world crying for connection, for warmth, for the sound of another heart beating near ours. And somewhere along the journey, through pain or confusion, we begin to believe that detachment is the answer. That if we care less, we'll hurt less. That if we pull away, we'll remain untouched by the chaos of feeling too much. But what are you really protecting yourself from? Is it truly others you fear? Or is it what you become when you let yourself be fully seen? We armor up not because people are dangerous, but because vulnerability terrifies us more than loneliness. We start to believe the myth that being untouched is the same as being strong. And so we ghost our own humanity. You see, you were never meant to live like a lone star floating in the dark. You are part of this great rhythmic pulse, the dance of all that is. And every time you withdraw into yourself and close your spirit off from others, you go against your own nature. You think detachment is spiritual, but in truth it's often a disguise for fear, for disappointment, for wounds left unhealed and expectations unmet. Look at the trees. They don't detach from the earth when the storm comes. Their roots dig deeper. The river doesn't stop flowing because the rocks are unkind. It finds a way around, over, through, but it never stops its journey. Life is movement, contact, friction, relationship. Everything that grows does so in relationship to something else. When you detach too much, you begin to confuse aloneness with enlightenment. But real awakening is not escaping the world. It is becoming more available to it, more vulnerable, more present. To feel deeply is not a flaw, it is your power. And yes, sometimes it means you'll hurt, but it also means you'll heal. You'll laugh, you'll love, you'll taste the full flavor of existence. So let yourself soften, let the armor crack. Not all people are meant to be trusted, but that doesn't mean none are. You can learn discernment without building a fortress. You can open your heart without surrendering your soul. Detachment might give you control, but it robs you of the miracle of connection. Don't be so busy trying to stay untouched that you forget what it feels like to be truly alive. Let yourself be held, let yourself need, let yourself want. The pain of connection is real, but the beauty of it is even more so. And you'll never find your place in this world if you keep disappearing from it. So breathe, stay, and remember, you were never meant to do this alone. Detachment is often painted as wisdom. We dress it up in robes of spirituality, decorate it with the illusion of self-mastery, and call it peace. But peel back that layer, sit in silence with the feeling beneath it, and you'll often find fear quietly trembling at the center. Not the kind of fear that roars or lashes out, but the subtle kind. The kind that whispers, the kind that builds invisible walls around the heart and says, "Don't go there again. It's safer here alone." And slowly, without realizing, you begin to accept that as truth. You start to believe that the less you care, the less you'll hurt, that the quieter you become, the more peace you'll feel, that pulling away is a form of wisdom. But that is not wisdom, it is a wound still bleeding under the surface. You don't detach because you mastered your emotions. You detach because your emotions once overwhelmed you and no one taught you how to sit with them. So now you protect yourself from people the same way a burned hand avoids fire. So you think it's intelligence, but it's conditioning. It's pain disguised as philosophy. Somewhere along the way, someone made you believe that love leads to disappointment, that closeness ends in betrayal, that depending on others is weakness. So you promised yourself, I will be different. I will not need. I will not ask. I will not expect. And in doing so, you convinced yourself you were becoming stronger. But what you were really becoming was lonely, and loneliness, when given enough time, can start to feel like peace, if you forget what real peace actually feels like. So you sit in your silence, thinking you've transcended all the chaos, when in truth, you've simply removed yourself from the arena of life. And that silence, that detachment becomes a refuge, but also a prison. Because nothing gets in, but nothing gets out either. You don't feel pain, perhaps, but you also don't feel joy in its fullest form. You don't feel the intimacy of another human truly knowing your soul. You don't feel the wild uncertainty of love, nor the sacred messiness of being human with someone else. And still, you'll say it's for your peace, you'll say it's for your growth. But ask yourself, did you choose detachment from a place of love or from a place of fear? Are you isolating because your spirit is overflowing with wisdom? Or are you retreating because your heart has grown tired of being broken? There's a difference, a profound difference. One is rooted in fullness, the other in emptiness. The mind is clever. It knows how to twist the story. It will tell you you're just protecting your energy. It will echo back every quote you've read on boundaries, solitude, and silence. But those things, in their truest form, are not meant to close you off from the world. They are meant to anchor you so you can move through the world with more clarity, more presence, not less engagement. You may believe you're above attachment, that you've reached a higher plane, that you've mastered yourself. But self-mastery is not about avoiding others. It is about facing others with such a depth of understanding that you no longer fear what they might awaken in you. It's easy to detach. It's hard to stay open after being hurt. It's easy to withdraw. It takes strength to show up again, heart exposed, trusting that maybe this time it will be different. Not because others will change, but because you have. You cannot escape what it means to be human. And to be human is to be affected, to feel, to long, to ache, to reach, to be burned sometimes and healed sometimes and confused most of the time. But in the end, that chaos is what makes life real. That's where the richness lives. Not in a cold fortress of solitude where nothing can touch you, but in the brave vulnerability of trying again and again and again. You think detachment will save you from suffering, but what if it's robbing you of everything worth suffering for? What if the point was never to escape pain, but to grow a heart so wide that it could hold pain and beauty in the same breath? What if detachment isn't elevation, but escape? And what if that escape is quietly costing you the very things your soul came here to experience? You were not meant to fold into yourself like a collapsing star. You were meant to expand, to connect, to risk, to love. You were meant to cry in front of people and not apologize, to lean on someone without guilt, to laugh so hard your guard falls apart, to speak your truth without pretense. You were meant to be affected because that's what it means to be alive. If you weren't meant to feel, you wouldn't have been given such a depth of emotion. But emotion unprocessed becomes fear, and fear when dressed in spiritual clothes becomes detachment. It feels cleaner, calmer, even enlightened, but it's not. It's just hidden pain that hasn't been given a voice. And until you give it a voice, it will keep pulling you away from people, from love, from risk, from truth. You'll keep calling it protection, but it's not protecting you. It's limiting you. And no matter how wise it sounds in theory, it starves your soul in practice. You've survived a lot, that's true. You've had to become your own shelter, your own comfort, your own peace. But don't let survival become your identity. Don't let it define the way you relate to others forever. There's more to life than just not being hurt. There's something deeper than not crying at night. There's something more sacred than being unaffected. So the next time you find yourself pulling away, not to recharge but to avoid, pause. Ask yourself, is this love speaking or fear? Is this detachment rooted in wisdom or in pain? You'll feel the difference if you're honest. One will feel open, the other will feel closed. One will invite you back to yourself, the other will trap you inside yourself. And when that moment comes, don't reach for the silence. Don't escape into aloneness like you always do. Stay a little longer. Let yourself be seen a little more. Let someone hold your sorrow instead of always holding it alone. Let the fear rise, not so you can run from it, but so you can finally meet it, face to face, and ask it why it's still here. Let your detachment unravel, not in shame, but in truth. Because the truth is, you weren't made to protect yourself from life. You were made to engage with it, even when it trembles, even when it hurts, even when it breaks you open in ways you didn't ask for. You are not an island. You never were. Even though the modern world keeps whispering that independence is the highest form of evolution, that to need no one is to be strong, that solitude is the only safe place left, deep inside you know something different. You know that when your soul is hurting, it doesn't cry out for isolation. It longs for understanding. It aches for someone to say, I see you, I'm here, you don't have to carry this alone. But we live in a culture that glorifies detachment, forgetting that human nature is not forged in walls. It's shaped in presence, in touch, in the silent language of shared breath and beating hearts. There's a rhythm to life, and that rhythm is relationship. The sun does not shine alone, it shines for the earth. The moon reflects light not because it must, but because it was made to do so in harmony with the sun. Even the tide is not its own master. It dances to the pull of the moon. And you, though clothed in flesh and filled with thought, are no different. You move in relationship to everything around you. You may not always admit it, but your very being craves communion, not just with people, but with meaning, with beauty, with the sacred pulse that connects all things. You are not whole when you disconnect. You are merely surviving in fragments. There is something in you that wants to merge, to be part of a conversation that requires no words, to look into another's eyes and feel less alone. And yet we are trained to fear this instinct, to override it. We are taught that to be strong is to be separate, that to be spiritual is to be untouched. But what is spirituality if not the deep awareness of connection? Connection to self, to others, to the divine pattern of the cosmos that beats quietly behind every moment? When you begin to pull away from others too often, you interrupt that pattern. You resist your own nature. You pretend you're a singularity when you were born a symphony. You were made to harmonize, to listen and to be heard, to affect others and be affected. And there is no weakness in that. There is only truth. There is only the raw beauty of being part of something larger than yourself. The mind may trick you into believing that your detachment is power, that to not care, to not depend, to not be vulnerable is some form of transcendence. But transcendence without love is emptiness. Evolution without empathy is just escape. You are not ascending when you cut people off. You're stalling. You're hiding. You're quietly grieving the very thing you need but are too afraid to ask for. Some of your most sacred moments have not been alone in thought, but with someone who truly understood you. Someone who listened without fixing. Someone who sat beside your silence without trying to break it. These moments are not distractions from your path. They are the path. Connection is not a detour. It is the road itself. Every meaningful transformation in your life was sparked by relationship. Whether with a teacher, a friend, a lover, or even a stranger who saw your truth before you did. You see, the heart doesn't open in isolation. It needs friction. It needs warmth. It needs presence. Just like muscles grow with tension, the soul deepens through connection. You may feel safe hiding in the fortress of detachment, but safety is not the same as growth. Safety can numb. It can make you forget what it means to feel deeply, to laugh uncontrollably, to cry with someone instead of alone. It can lull you into a false sense of peace, where you've traded the messiness of life for the sterile illusion of control. You are not designed to be sterile. You were made to feel, to collide, to brush up against other souls and let them shape you. Not all collisions will be soft, some will break you. But even that breaking can be sacred if you allow it. It shows you where your walls are, where you're still afraid, where your soul still longs to be held. It is through others that you remember who you are. A mirror cannot reflect itself. It needs another face to show its light. And in this great mirror of existence, you only come to know yourself when you are seen. Truly seen, not for your performance, not for your strength, but for your trembling humanity, for your broken pieces, for the scars you hide behind smiles. That kind of seeing is not possible in detachment. It's only possible when you show up raw and real. But showing up is risky. And that's why you keep pulling away. Because people can be cruel, they can misunderstand you, they can twist your words, break your trust, ignore your pain. But the answer to that pain is not disconnection, the answer is healing. The answer is discernment, not avoidance. The answer is finding better connection, not no connection. You're not safer when you cut people out completely. You're just lonelier. And loneliness has a strange way of dressing itself up. It wears the costume of independence. It quotes philosophy. It tells you you're fine on your own. But deep down, it gnaws at your soul. It creeps into your thoughts late at night. It makes your joy feel incomplete, your laughter feel hollow, your silence feel heavier than it should. That's not peace. That's a life lived behind glass, where you can see the world, but never quite touch it. Don't let detachment become your religion. Don't let it convince you that separation is sacred. True sacredness is found in communion, in shared breath, in knowing that your tears are not the only ones falling, in realizing that the pain you thought was yours alone is written into the hearts of others too. And in that shared pain, in that common longing, there is healing. You don't have to be the one who holds everything in anymore. You don't have to keep pretending that needing others makes you weak. It doesn't. It makes you human. And in your humanity, there is immense strength. Not the strength that conquers, but the strength that connects. The strength that says, I will stay open even if it hurts. I will stay soft even when the world tries to harden me. I will reach out even when I don't know if someone will take my hand. You are not meant to walk through this life untouched. You are not meant to become so guarded that nothing ever moves you. You are not meant to live as a closed circuit of thought endlessly spinning in your own echo chamber. You are meant to be moved. You are meant to love and be loved, to cry and be comforted, to give and receive, not in perfect balance, but in sacred motion, like waves, like life itself. We often confuse strength with silence, withholding emotion, concealing vulnerability, hiding the tremble in our voice. We do these things and call ourselves strong. We hold back our tears, lock away our fears, and we're praised for our composure. People admire the stoic, the unmoved, the ones who don't flinch. But is that truly strength? Or have we just learned to perform an illusion because we were never taught that real strength breathes, that it bends, that it breaks sometimes and still rises? We live in a world that rewards the mask, a world that sees vulnerability and rushes to label it weakness, fragility, or emotional instability. And so we adapt. We armor up. We retreat behind well-practiced smiles and perfectly timed replies. We detach, not because we're brave, but because we're scared to death of what might happen if we were truly seen. What if they don't understand? What if they leave? What if our openness becomes a weapon in the wrong hands? So we choose safety, we choose control, we choose to not let people in. And when we do, we only show them the polished parts. But the soul doesn't heal through performance. It heals through presence, through truth, through vulnerability. And every time we withhold that truth, every time we suppress that vulnerable cry for connection, we starve the very part of ourselves that is begging to feel alive. To be vulnerable is not to be broken. It is to be honest. It is to admit, this hurts me, this matters to me, this scares me. And that honesty, raw, trembling, unfiltered, is not the mark of weakness. It is the mark of tremendous inner power. It is the ability to face the self without flinching, to allow the heart to beat louder than the mind, to show up without guarantees. That is not weakness. That is courage in its purest form. Anyone can hide. Anyone can put on a mask. That takes no effort at all. But to be real, to stay open in a world that tells you to shut down, that takes a kind of strength the world rarely celebrates. It's not the loud kind. It doesn't shout. It doesn't need applause. But it changes lives. It changes you. It changes everything. You see, the idea that withdrawing emotionally makes you strong is rooted in fear. It's the belief that if you keep your distance, no one can hurt you. But in doing so, you rob yourself of the very experiences that make life beautiful. You miss out on the tenderness of connection, the joy of being understood, the healing that comes from simply saying, I'm not okay, and having someone respond, it's all right, I'm here. Strength is not being untouched. Strength is being deeply touched and still choosing to stay open. It's trusting someone with your scars and not apologizing for having them. It's crying in front of others and not retreating into shame. It's letting your heart break in public, not for pity, but because you refuse to pretend. You refuse to lie to yourself or others about what it means to be human. And the truth is, you can't love without vulnerability. You can't form meaningful relationships, experience genuine intimacy, or build lasting trust without letting yourself be seen. Not the curated version, not the filtered highlight reel. The real you, the tired you, the scared you. The you that still carries childhood wounds and grown-up doubts. That's the part of you that connects to others. That's the part of you people fall in love with, not your strength, but your sincerity. Yet we've all been conditioned to hide. We've all been told, either directly or through experience, that vulnerability is dangerous, that it invites betrayal, judgment, abandonment. And perhaps it has. Maybe you opened your heart once and it shattered. Maybe you told the truth once and someone used it against you. But that doesn't mean the truth is the problem. That doesn't mean you were wrong to feel. It means they were not ready to receive your honesty. It means their response was a reflection of them, not you. You don't need to build higher walls, you need to find safer spaces. You need to choose more wisely, not love less fiercely. You need to trust yourself to recognize who deserves access to your heart, not by never giving it, but by learning when it's safe to open and when it's wise to walk away. Vulnerability and discernment are not enemies, they are allies. Together, they allow you to love fully and protect your peace. Strength is letting yourself be affected and choosing not to be destroyed. It's waking up on the days when the weight is unbearable and still deciding to feel, still deciding to try, still deciding to connect even if the world feels cold. Strength is the quiet voice that says, I'm scared, but I'm here. I'm tired, but I'm not giving up. I've been hurt, but I'm still willing to love. You can't become strong by pretending you don't feel. You become strong by feeling it all and learning how to carry it with grace. You become strong by allowing your heart to remain soft in a world that constantly asks you to harden. You become strong by allowing yourself to fall apart and rebuild, not just once, but as many times as it takes. And perhaps the most radical form of strength is allowing others to witness your rebuilding, to let them see the in-between, the messy middle, the days when you're not sure who you are anymore. There's something sacred about letting someone hold space for your unbecoming, about not hiding your process, about not waiting until you're whole to be seen. There's beauty in that, there's truth, and in that truth there is power. Because when you're vulnerable, you give others permission to be vulnerable too. You create space for healing, not just for yourself, but for everyone around you. You become a lighthouse in a world full of people lost in their own storms, searching for a sign that they're not alone. And your openness becomes that sign. You are not weak for feeling deeply. You are not soft for wanting connection. You are not broken for needing love. You are brave, you are human. And in that humanity, in that honest, trembling, imperfect humanity lies your greatest strength. Not in how well you can detach, but in how bravely you choose to stay open, to try again, to risk again, to love again. Even after everything, even still, even now. There is a common myth that detachment is healing, that stepping away from people, turning inward and severing emotional ties is the path to peace. And yes, space can be medicine, silence can be sacred, solitude, when chosen with clarity, can restore you. But healing isn't just about pulling away. It's about engaging differently. It's about learning to stay in the presence of others without losing yourself, about learning to speak your truth without collapsing under the weight of misunderstanding. You don't heal by disconnecting from people forever. You heal by learning how to be with people without abandoning yourself. When the pain is fresh, withdrawal feels like safety. You need to be alone. You need to process. That's real. That's valid. But time alone does not automatically equal healing. Sometimes it simply becomes a hiding place, a space where the hurt festers rather than fades, where the wounds are not cleansed but buried deeper beneath the illusion of control. You convince yourself that you're doing better because you're no longer triggered, but what's really happening is that you've just stopped placing yourself in situations that reflect the parts of you still aching. Healing isn't avoiding triggers. Healing is becoming so grounded within yourself that the trigger loses its grip over time. And that only happens through re-engagement, through exposure to the very relational dynamics that once harmed you, this time with new awareness, boundaries, and tools. You can't grow emotionally if you never challenged emotionally. If you retreat every time someone mirrors back your insecurity, your fear, your unresolved grief, then you never actually face it. You simply delay it. And in that delay, you may feel momentary relief, but you also prolong your evolution. True healing is not a bubble, it's a battlefield. and a sanctuary all at once. It's messy, it's imperfect. It often happens through relationships, because it was often through relationships that the damage occurred in the first place. And the soul craves completion. It wants to return to the source of the fracture, not to reopen the wound, but to offer it a new story, a new ending, a new way of being. And for that you must be willing to re-enter the world, not blindly, not recklessly, but intentionally. Healing asks that you practice staying when every part of you wants to run, that you learn to communicate instead of shut down, that you face discomfort not as a threat but as an opportunity. The discomfort that comes when someone misunderstands you, when they speak carelessly, when they ignore your pain, that discomfort is not proof that you're unsafe. Sometimes it's just the growing pain of learning how to hold space for yourself in the presence of another, learning how to not fold, how to not collapse into silence, how to not shrink to make someone else comfortable. There is something deeply transformative about staying when it's easier to escape, about choosing presence over protection, about allowing another person to witness you as you really are, and staying rooted in your own truth, regardless of their reaction. Because real healing is not when others finally stop hurting you. Real healing is when you learn how to navigate that hurt without destroying yourself, without shutting down, without withdrawing into the shadows again. We often think that by pulling away, we're gaining control, that the fewer people we trust, the fewer people can betray us. But this kind of control is born of fear, not strength. It's a reaction to pain, not a path beyond it. It says, I will not let this happen again. But in doing so, it also says, I will not let anything happen again. You end up cutting off not just the bad, but also the good. The moments of real connection, the joy of being seen, the miracle of shared emotion, they're all locked out, along with the threat. Healing requires risk. There's no way around it. There will always be uncertainty in relationship. There will always be a chance that someone won't hold your heart the way it deserves to be held. But there's also the chance that someone will. And if you never give yourself that chance again, you will rob yourself of the redemption your story was meant to carry. Healing is not simply surviving your past. It is allowing yourself to live fully despite it. It is letting light touch the places where darkness once ruled. And that can't happen in isolation. It happens in connection. It happens in the moments where you show up differently than you did before, where you stay instead of running, where you speak instead of swallowing your words, where you feel the fear and choose love anyway. It's not about forcing yourself into relationships before you're ready. It's about recognizing when your detachment is no longer serving your growth, when the walls have become cages, when the silence has become a way of hiding, not healing. And at that point, you must ask yourself, am I protecting my peace or am I avoiding my pain? Am I choosing solitude because it nourishes me or because I've convinced myself I'm too broken to belong? Healing is not linear, it is a spiral. You will revisit old wounds, you will find yourself reacting in ways you thought you had outgrown. But the difference now is that you're aware. You catch yourself. You pause. You breathe. You respond differently. That is progress. That is healing. And it is often within the presence of others that this growth becomes visible, because alone it's easy to believe we've changed. But it's only when we're faced with the mirror of another human being that we see what still lives inside of us, what still needs tending, what still hurts, what still hopes. You don't need to be perfect to engage again. You just need to be willing, willing to feel, willing to stumble, willing to open yourself to the messiness of connection, willing to forgive yourself when old patterns resurface, willing to start again and again and again, until the rhythm of relationship no longer terrifies you, but becomes familiar once more. You can't keep healing in the shadows. At some point you must step into the light. Let others see you. Let them misunderstand. Let them love you imperfectly. Let them challenge you. Let them teach you, and in return, offer them the same. That is how we grow, not in isolation but in relation, not in detachment but in the sacred imperfect dance of being human, together. To be fully alive is not to live untouched. It is not to exist behind glass or to observe life from a safe distance. To be fully alive is to be immersed, affected, involved, vulnerable, and present in all of it. The joy, the sorrow, the confusion, the awe. It is to allow life to move through you completely without retreating into the shadows of fear or overanalyzing every emotional response. It is to say yes to life, not just in thought, but in sensation, in connection, in participation. You cannot live fully if you keep shrinking back into yourself whenever things become uncomfortable. Life does not happen in avoidance. It happens in engagement. There is a kind of numbness that creeps in when you live too long in detachment. At first, it feels like clarity. It feels like control. The absence of chaos can feel like peace. But eventually, something begins to feel hollow. You laugh, but it doesn't echo through your soul. You speak, but your words feel rehearsed. You look at people, and they don't quite reach you. And you realize you're not avoiding pain anymore. You're avoiding life. And life by nature is unpredictable, it is wild, it is messy, but it is also beautiful in a way that can only be experienced if you are fully here for it. You see, we often crave safety more than we crave truth. We choose predictable numbness over vulnerable presence. We choose isolation because we believe it protects us from being hurt again, but what it really does is insulate us from everything that matters, from connection, from growth, from the deep sense of meaning that only arises when you are present, raw, and available to what is. You can only truly feel joy when you are also willing to feel pain. They are different ends of the same channel. You can't mute one without muting the other. To be available to life is not to be reckless or naive. It is to be rooted enough in yourself that you don't fear being moved, that you can allow people to touch you not because they are perfect, but because you have stopped demanding perfection as a prerequisite for connection. It is to understand that being available to life means being available to disappointment and to miracles, to rejection and to intimacy, to endings and to beginning. Life does not wait for you to be fully healed before it offers itself to you. It arrives as it is, and it asks softly, persistently, will you let this moment in? Will you allow yourself to be here fully, even if it's uncomfortable? Being fully available to life means no longer hiding your real self beneath the surface of performance. It means no longer pretending that you don't need anyone or that you are above connection. It means being honest when you are hurt. It means showing excitement without shame. It means feeling what you feel in real time instead of bottling it up and burying it under layers of analysis and defense. You were not made to be a fortress. You were made to be a vessel. Life flows through you. That is your design. And when you block the flow to protect yourself, you also block the vitality that makes you feel alive. Look at the natural world. A tree does not withhold its blossoms in fear of the wind. It blooms anyway. The ocean does not retreat from the shore because it has been rejected before. It returns again and again. The sky does not hold back its colors during sunset, even though it will soon be swallowed by darkness. Nature is available. It participates. It expresses. And you are nature too. You forget this when you believe that detachment is strength, when you idolize the idea of being untouched. But nothing real is untouched. Everything real is marked by time, by emotion, by experience. You cannot wait until everything feels safe to begin living again. Life is not something you will one day arrive at once you've finished healing, once you've detached enough, once you've sorted through all your fears. Life is now. In the awkward conversation, in the quiet dinner with someone who truly listens, in the trembling voice that says, I'm still figuring it out, in the laugh that escapes unexpectedly, in the tear that you allow to fall in front of someone who doesn't judge you. These are not distractions from life. They are life. Availability is not a weakness, it is a superpower. Because in a world full of people building walls, someone who dares to stay open becomes a lighthouse. Someone who shows up, even when they're scared, changes the atmosphere. Someone who listens without armor, who speaks without pretending, who offers their presence without needing control, This is someone who is fully alive. And that kind of presence ripples. It softens others. It calls people out of hiding. It heals in ways that no amount of silence or separation ever could. But availability is also a practice. It is not a fixed state. You will falter, you will close off again, you will catch yourself retreating into familiar walls. That's part of it. What matters is that you come back, that you notice the moment you go numb, that you catch yourself in the drift and choose again to return, to breathe, to feel, to engage. And each time you do, you become more alive, not because life suddenly becomes easier, but because you are no longer running from it. To be fully alive is to let the music of life move through you, not just play in the background. It is to stop analyzing every note and start dancing. It is to risk being offbeat, to risk being seen, to risk looking foolish and feeling exposed. But in that dance, in that sacred clumsiness, you begin to feel your own heartbeat again. You begin to remember that joy is not reserved for the detached observer. Joy belongs to the one who dares to feel, who dares to open, who dares to trust. So when you feel the urge to retreat, to become smaller, to disappear behind the facade of detachment, pause. Remember what's at stake. You're not protecting yourself. You're denying yourself. You're not saving yourself from pain. You're starving yourself of connection. And connection, real, messy, vulnerable connection, is where life begins. Not in perfection, not in invincibility, but in the trembling courage to stay available to every sacred, unexpected, imperfect thing that unfolds. Everything you see, everything you touch, everything you are, at its core is energy. The chair you sit on, the thoughts you think, the emotions you feel, all of it vibrates with a frequency that aligns with the invisible patterns of consciousness. The world does not move because of action. It moves because of imagination. The substance behind all appearances is not matter, but mind, shaped, molded, and colored by belief. There is no need to strain. Nothing in this universe responds to effort. What you strive to force resists you. What you allow through inner acceptance, through restful knowing, reveals itself with ease. Creation is finished. That which you desire already exists in the unseen realm. You do not create it through effort. You align with it through feeling. Feel it real. That is the secret. All things are drawn to you not by chance, but by the vibration you offer through your awareness. You are not here to beg for manifestations. You are here to recognize that all things are already yours if you can simply assume their reality. There is no waiting in this eternal now. There is only alignment. There is only the acceptance that what you long for is already yours in the field of infinite possibility. The world out there is nothing more than a mirror. It reflects back the state you dwell in. When you occupy a state of peace, the world becomes peaceful. When you walk in abundance internally, the world begins to show signs of provision. The reflection changes not because you manipulate the mirror, but because you shift within. You do not need to chase anything. You need only dwell in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. You do not earn energy, you embody it. The invisible is far more powerful than the visible. Thought and feeling are the blueprint of form. That is why rest is the highest act of faith. To rest in the knowing that what you desire is already on its way is to acknowledge the truth of your creative power. The moment you relax, the moment you let go of worry, is the moment energy begins to arrange itself to match your inner conviction. Imagine with intention. Feel with sincerity. Let the thing you desire become so real to you inwardly that the world cannot help but catch up. That is the law. That is the nature of energy. It responds not to words but to states of being. Your world is not reacting to what you say or wish for, it is reacting to what you are. So be that which you seek. Walk as if it is done. Rest, knowing the unseen is more potent than the seen. There is no battle to win. The moment you accept the end in imagination, the means arrange themselves. You are not the victim of circumstances, you are the operant power. All energy responds to the command of inner assumption. And when you finally relax, when you let go of effort and rest in the feeling of fulfillment, the universe obeys you without question. Everything you perceive, everything you experience, And everything you call real is energy vibrating at different frequencies. What appears solid, what you can touch and hold, is simply condensed energy. A field of vibration slowed down so it can be sensed with the physical body. But beneath the surface of all appearances lies a more fundamental truth. There is no separation between matter and mind. Everything is energy. And energy is shaped, molded, and guided by the awareness that beholds it. Your consciousness is not a bystander in this process. It is the central force directing the flow of energy into form. This entire universe is alive with invisible forces that respond to the movement of your thoughts and emotions. The table in your room, the car you drive, the people you meet, all of them are manifestations of energy that have taken shape in accordance with invisible laws. These laws are not mechanical or external. They are deeply personal and operate through your own awareness. You may think the world happens to you, but in truth, the world unfolds through you, your assumptions, your beliefs, your inner states. They are the blueprints through which energy takes on form and becomes the life you live. There is no such thing as inert matter. What seems lifeless and fixed is alive at a deeper level. Every particle dances in relationship to a greater whole, responding not just to the physical forces around it, but to the subtle influence of thought, intention, and emotion. You do not have to push against the world to change it. You only need to realize that you are already influencing it, constantly, through the thoughts you repeat, the images you entertain, and the states you dwell in. Energy is responsive. It has no will of its own. It simply reflects the vibration it is given. You do not observe a world that exists apart from you. You participate in the creation of that world through the lens of your consciousness. What you believe to be true begins to manifest, not because the world is listening, but because energy must arrange itself to reflect your inner acceptance. This is not a metaphor or a poetic idea, it is a spiritual law. If you feel poor, life will organize itself to reflect that feeling. If you feel abundant, the same law will bring abundance into view. The law is always at work. It is impersonal, precise, and responsive to your inner state. Your senses deceive you when they suggest that things are fixed or final. What you see is the echo of what you have previously believed. The outer world is always a step behind the inner world. Thought precedes form. Emotion precedes event. Assumption precedes manifestation. That is why the most important work you can do is not in the outer world, but in the inner realm of imagination. There, all things are fluid, changeable, and limitless. And it is from that sacred space that energy takes direction. Energy is shaped by attention. Where your focus goes, energy flows. When you dwell on lack, you energize lack. When you contemplate love, you energize love. Every image you hold with conviction, every belief you accept as true, every emotion you dwell in long enough, all of these become instructions written into the invisible substance of life. This substance does not argue, it does not resist. It simply conforms to the command it receives. And the only command it understands is the one you give through sustained feeling and focused imagination. The greatest illusion is the idea that you are separate from the world you experience. The truth is, the world flows from within you. You are not a passive observer. You are a powerful creator, constantly radiating energy into the field of experience. And this energy does not go out aimlessly. It goes out with form, with color, with intention. Whether you do so consciously or unconsciously, you are directing energy every moment of your life. The question is not whether you are creating, but whether you are creating deliberately or by default. Imagination is the gateway through which energy enters form. What you can imagine with conviction, you can experience in reality. This is not about fantasy or wishful thinking. It is about the recognition that energy responds to belief, not effort. If you see yourself as healthy, whole, successful, even when appearances suggest otherwise, energy begins to rearrange to match that vision. The key is inner conviction. The more you dwell in the feeling of the wish fulfilled, the more powerful your creative signal becomes. There is no need to analyze how things will unfold. The how is never your concern. Your only task is to enter the state where the desired outcome already exists. Energy does not require you to figure it all out. It only requires that you align with the vibration of what you seek. When you embody the feeling of success, success must appear. When you live in the feeling of love, love must come. It is not optional, because energy has no will to resist. It only mirrors what is placed before it. Even the body you inhabit is energy. Every cell, every organ, every heartbeat is animated by a deeper force that responds to thought and feeling. The body is not separate from the mind. It is the outpicturing of what the mind accepts as true. That is why healing begins within. That is why transformation starts in thought. If you change your self-concept, the energy that forms your life will change accordingly. Nothing in your life is fixed. Everything is energy, waiting to be redefined by your awareness. There is no external source you must wait on. No person, condition, or circumstance has the power to create for you. All power is within. The same force that animates the stars and holds the planets in motion animates your being. It does not favor one person over another. It flows freely, responding only to the pattern of thought and feeling you choose to entertain. You are not small, and you are not powerless. You are made of the same creative essence as the universe itself. The only question is whether you will awaken to it. The moment you stop identifying with limitation, the energy around you begins to shift. The moment you stop repeating the story of lack, the field responds with new opportunities. The moment you stop affirming separation, connection becomes real. This is the power you hold. Not because you try harder, not because you deserve more, but because you are already connected to the energy of all that is. You do not need permission to create. You only need to claim what already belongs to you by divine right. Energy is infinite. There is no lack in the universe except the one you imagine into being. There is no restriction except the beliefs you continue to accept. Everything is available, everything is possible, but to receive it you must first become it in thought. You must think from the state of your desire, not toward it. You must move into the vibration where the thing you seek is already yours, not someday. Now, because energy responds to present tense awareness, not future hopes. The more you try, the more you push, the more you strive from a place of desperation or urgency, the more resistance you create. The nature of energy is flow. It responds not to struggle, but to alignment. When you relax, you come into harmony with what you desire. When you stop chasing and begin allowing, you open the door for manifestation. Nothing real is forced. Everything true arises effortlessly when you match the frequency of your desire through inner stillness and certainty. You have been conditioned to believe that success comes through effort, that results are earned through action, and that desire must be achieved by doing. But that is the illusion of the material world, the game of appearances. The deeper reality is that everything you seek already exists in the invisible field of energy. It is not your job to create it from nothing. It is your task to align with it by entering the state where it already is. You do not need to build the bridge. The bridge is built by your state of consciousness. When you occupy the right state, life moves to meet you. This is why relaxation is not weakness. It is wisdom. To relax is to trust that the universe already knows what you want and is already delivering it. To relax is to surrender the need to control the outcome and instead dwell in the feeling that it is already handled. That feeling of certainty, of calm knowing, is the most powerful state you can occupy. It is the vibration that magnetizes all things to you, because it reflects the truth that creation is finished. Your role is not to struggle to make it happen. Your role is to live from the awareness that it is already done. Every time you struggle, you are affirming that what you desire is absent. Every time you force something to happen, you are reinforcing the belief that it cannot come on its own. But energy does not respond to your need, it responds to your frequency. And the frequency of effort is tension, doubt, and fear. The frequency of relaxation is trust, acceptance, and inner knowing. That is why those who seem effortless in their success are often the ones who manifest the most. They are not trying to make it happen. They are simply living in the end. And the world must adjust. The more you relax, the more clearly you can hear the quiet voice within. It is that voice which guides you, not through force, but through inspiration. Inspired action arises from rest, not from panic. When you are still, when you are not rushing, the right idea appears. the right opportunity presents itself. The next step becomes obvious. This is the nature of co-creation. It is not about planning everything from the outside. It is about tuning into the inner world, where energy responds with precision to the frequency you maintain. You do not have to force your way forward. The path unfolds when you stop resisting the present moment. Most people are so busy running from where they are that they never fully arrive in the now. And yet it is only in the now that you can shift your state. It is only in the now that you can align with the reality you seek. When you relax, you stop postponing your good into the future and begin to live in the vibration where it already exists. The outer world may not reflect it immediately, but that does not matter. Energy moves first, form follows after. When you understand that effort is not what brings things to you, you begin to use your energy more wisely. You stop chasing and start allowing. You stop worrying and start trusting. And in that shift, everything begins to change. You speak differently, you walk differently, you see through the eyes of someone who knows it is already theirs. This shift does not require physical effort. It requires mental surrender. It requires you to stop trying so hard to make it happen and instead assume it has already happened. There is a natural rhythm to all things. When you fight against it, you create resistance. When you move with it, you experience ease. Nature never rushes, and yet everything gets accomplished. The seed becomes the tree, not through force, but through alignment with the soil, the sun, and the seasons. You are no different. When you rest in the knowing that all things unfold in perfect timing, you release the tension that blocks your blessings. You open yourself to the natural flow of life, where all things come to pass, not by might, but by inner alignment. The world is full of people taking massive action without results, and others doing very little but receiving everything. The difference is not in effort, it is in vibration. Those who receive have already become the thing they seek. They live from the state of their desire fulfilled. They do not beg life for outcomes, they embody the outcome in consciousness. That embodiment is what brings it into form. And the only way to embody a thing is to relax into it, to feel the joy, the peace, the satisfaction of it before it arrives. Action is not the cause of your reality, it is the effect. When you are aligned within, the action you take becomes inspired, efficient, and powerful. But when you act from fear, from lack, from urgency, even massive effort cannot produce lasting results. Because effort that comes from lack only magnifies lack. But action that comes from rest, real rest, born from the knowing that it is already yours, creates miracles. This is why it is not laziness to relax. It is spiritual maturity. It is the quiet confidence of someone who knows who they are and what they possess. When you feel the need to force something, pause. Ask yourself what state you are occupying. Are you acting from faith or fear? Are you trying to convince yourself that it will work out, or are you resting in the deep knowing that it already has? The truth is always revealed in how you feel. If your heart is racing, if your mind is full of doubt, if you are out of alignment. But if you are calm, centered, grateful, and at peace, you are in the energy of already having it. And in that state, everything you desire must come to you. The most magnetic energy is the energy of someone who does not need it to happen, because they already feel it real inside. This is the paradox of manifestation. When you stop needing it, you make room for it. When you stop chasing, it starts moving toward you. When you let go, you allow. This is not about giving up on your desire. It is about releasing your grip so that it can breathe, so that it can arrive in the best way possible, guided by intelligence far greater than your conscious mind. Relaxation is alignment. It is the signal that says, I believe. Not because the outer world has proven it, but because your inner world has accepted it. And once accepted internally, energy must bring it to life externally. This is the law. This is the way. And when you finally realize that everything responds not to your effort but to your state of being, you will begin to relax, not because you are giving up, but because you finally understand how powerful you truly are. To assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled is to bypass the limitations of logic and step directly into the frequency where what you desire already exists. It is not about hoping, wishing, or wanting. It is about becoming. When you assume a state, you claim it as your present reality. You don't merely think about it, you feel from it. That distinction changes everything. Thinking of your desire places it outside of you, somewhere in the future. But thinking from your desire brings it inward, into your current identity. And energy responds to identity, not desire. The world you experience is not shaped by what you want. It is shaped by what you are conscious of being. If you are conscious of being in lack, no amount of external striving will bring lasting abundance. If you are conscious of being alone, no effort will truly bridge the gap to connection. But the moment you shift inwardly and assume the feeling that your desire is already yours, you enter a new vibration, a new state of being, and in that state, all things must conform to match it. Feeling is the secret. Thought alone is not enough. You can repeat affirmations endlessly, but if they do not awaken the corresponding feeling within, they remain hollow words. Feeling is what charges thought with creative power. When you feel the joy of your desire fulfilled, you send out a frequency so specific, so precise, that the entire field of energy around you begins to adjust. Circumstances, people, events, these are not random. They are shaped by the emotional tones you consistently dwell in. Imagination is the tool by which you enter the state of the wish fulfilled. It allows you to construct inner scenes that feel more real than the outer world. When you imagine vividly and emotionally, you are impressing a new pattern on the field of consciousness. You are reprogramming the subconscious mind, which accepts whatever is vividly imagined and emotionally felt as true. And once the subconscious accepts a thing, it moves heaven and earth to express it. That is why the inner act is more important than the outer one. Everything begins in consciousness first. You do not need evidence to feel something real. You only need the willingness to believe in the unseen more than you trust the visible. The world you see is old news. It is a printout of your past assumptions. If you wait for something to appear before you feel it, you are living backward. Creation does not work that way. You must feel the thing real before it appears. That is the test. That is the key. And that is the art of living from the end, where the wish is already fulfilled. When you assume a new state, the old state begins to dissolve. The outer world may still show remnants of the past, but do not be fooled. These are shadows, echoes of previous vibrations. Do not react to them. Stay loyal to the new state. Persist in the inner feeling even when the outer world seems unchanged, because the outer must catch up. The seed you plant in imagination grows in silence before it bursts through the soil. The delay is not denial, it is preparation. Stay in the state, trust the process, keep feeling it real. You are not pretending, you are claiming. This is not fantasy, it is creation. When you feel from the end, when you occupy the emotion of fulfillment, you bring the unseen into visibility. Your body begins to behave as though it has already received. Your decisions shift. Your energy shifts. Your vibration becomes a match to the thing you desire. And once there is vibrational alignment, manifestation is inevitable. It does not require more time. It only requires deeper embodiment. The feeling of the wish fulfilled must become your dwelling place. Not a fleeting moment, not a brief meditation, but a home. A state you return to again and again until it becomes familiar, until it becomes natural. When it feels more real than your current conditions, you will know the shift has happened. You no longer chase the outcome, you live from it. And from that place, all effort dissolves into flow. The world begins to rearrange itself in ways you could never plan or predict. The more you live in that state, the more you detach from needing the outcome to prove anything. You no longer wait to feel happy, you are happy. You no longer wait to feel free, you are free. And this is the great irony: when you no longer need the thing, you finally allow it. Because you are no longer signaling lack. You are signaling abundance, wholeness, completion. And the universe always reflects the signal you send, not the words you. That is why feeling is the most honest prayer. It bypasses logic and speaks directly to the creative intelligence that governs all things. Even when circumstances seem to contradict your inner feeling, you must hold to it. You must refuse to be swayed by appearances. This is the discipline of faith, not blind belief, but focused awareness. You choose to feel it real even when the world says otherwise. You become deaf to the outer noise and loyal only to the inner vision. That loyalty is what shapes energy. That persistence is what moves mountains. Not through effort, but through assumption. Not through willpower, but through feeling. The moment you assume the state, you become one with it. There is no delay in consciousness. There is only now. If you feel it now, you are it now. And if you are it now, the world must bend to reflect that truth. It may not happen instantly in form, but it is already done in energy. And once it is done in energy, it cannot be undone. Your only task is to remain in the state, to nurture it, to feel it over and over until it becomes your natural frequency. Then, and only then, does the outer world have no choice but to echo your inner conviction. There is no power outside you that determines your fate. Everything flows from within. The law of assumption is simple but profound. You become what you assume yourself to be, not what you wish to be, not what you hope to be, but what you assume. An assumption is not a casual thought. It is a deep felt conviction. It is the emotion that says, this is already mine. That feeling is the creative act. That feeling is the seed. That feeling is the word made flesh. When you live from the end, you collapse the distance between you and your desire. You stop asking, when will it happen, and start living as if it already has. Time becomes irrelevant. Doubt dissolves. You are no longer seeking, you are expressing. No longer waiting, you are receiving. And from this state of being, all things must come, not because you chase them, but because you are already in possession of the only thing that truly matters, the feeling that it is done. You are not here to struggle your way into abundance, happiness, or peace. You are here to remember your natural state. Everything is energy, and you are the one directing it by your assumptions, by your feelings, by your inner conversations. The moment you let go of appearances and trust the invisible world within, you begin to move energy deliberately. You begin to claim your power not by force, but by alignment. Your power does not come from what you do. It comes from the awareness of who you are. And who you are is consciousness itself, creative, limitless, and forever. There is no separation between you and the reality you desire, except the one created by your thoughts and beliefs. If you believe it is far, it becomes far. If you believe it is hard, it becomes hard. If you see yourself as someone trying to get there, you will always be in a state of pursuit, never arrival. But the moment you relax and understand that your consciousness is the only reality, you stop chasing and start choosing. You stop reacting and start imagining. You stop fearing what is and begin living from what can be, what already is in the unseen, waiting to be claimed. Your senses lie. They show you what has already been created, not what is becoming. They are tuned to the past, not to possibility. If you base your reality on what you can see, hear, or touch, you limit yourself to repeating cycles. But when you learn to ignore the senses and rely on the inner vision, the energy you send out becomes clear, focused, and potent. You are not meant to be a slave to the visible world. You are meant to transform it by the power of your unseen state. That state is everything. It is not a reaction to circumstances, it is the cause of them. To command energy is to hold a vision so steady, so unwavering, that nothing in the outer world can shake it. The world will test your focus, it will tempt you to doubt, it will flash evidence of your old state to convince you that nothing has changed. But you must remain inwardly unmoved. You must stay true to your inner knowing that what you are imagining is more real than what your eyes can see. That inner loyalty is what bends energy to your will. Not because you are forcing outcomes, but because you are no longer divided. You are no longer sending mixed signals. You are fully aligned. Energy moves where attention goes. Whatever you focus on, you amplify. So if your attention is on problems, you energize them. If your attention is on fear, you strengthen it. But if you shift your focus inward, toward the feeling of already having what you desire, you begin to activate a new frequency. That frequency is not random, it is precise. It tells the entire universe what you believe to be true. And the universe, which is nothing more than a mirror of consciousness, reflects that truth back to you. That is why your feelings matter more than your actions. Energy does not respond to what you do. It responds to who you are being. Your inner world must become more real to you than your outer circumstances. Not because the outer is irrelevant, but because it is delayed. It is the echo of the past. You must plant your flag in the invisible and live as though it were visible. That is what moves energy. That is what collapses time. The greater your emotional involvement with the unseen, the faster it becomes seen. This is not wishful thinking. It is law, it is structure, it is the blueprint of how all things are formed. Energy does not ask questions. It responds to vibration. So if you wish to change your life, do not begin by changing conditions. Begin by changing your assumptions. Begin by changing the story you tell yourself. Begin by changing how you feel in your body when you imagine your future. If there is tension, release it. If there is doubt, replace it with inner dialogue that affirms the new. If there is fear, do not suppress it. See it, thank it, and move beyond it. You are not here to fight with energy. You are here to flow with it, by holding to the truth of your vision, even when everything seems to argue against it. This is the secret that few understand. Your reality is not shaped by effort, it is shaped by assumption. When you assume something deeply enough, your energy shifts. Your thoughts, actions, body language, and decisions all begin to align without force. You naturally embody what you assume to be true, and the world, being a perfect mirror, reflects that embodiment back to you. If you assume lack, lack follows you. If you assume love, love surrounds you. If you assume success, success unfolds before you. And the assumption is not in the mind, it is in the feeling. There is a difference between hoping for something and living from it. Hope is often rooted in the belief that what you want is far away. Living from it means you no longer need to prove it. You just are it. You embody the end result. That is where all power lies. It is in the embodiment of the desired state, not in talking about it, not in thinking about it, but in being it. That state becomes your energetic signature, and the entire universe begins to conform to it. Life does not argue with energy, it responds in perfect harmony. So let go of the struggle. Let go of trying to make things happen. Your power is not in how much you do. It is in how aligned you are with the unseen. It is in how often you return to the state of your wish fulfilled. When you walk, walk from the state. When you speak, speak from the state. When you imagine, imagine from the end. Every moment is an opportunity to reaffirm your new identity. Not with willpower, but with certainty. That certainty relaxes the nervous system. It dissolves resistance. It aligns your entire being with the frequency of what you already possess in the invisible. You are the operant power. Not by force, but by awareness. Not by doing, but by being. And every time you choose to dwell in the inner state, regardless of what the outer world shows, you claim your creative authority. The old dissolves not because you fight it, but because you no longer feed it. The new appears not because you chase it, but because you have already assumed it within. Energy bends to identity, and identity is shaped by feeling. Feel it long enough, real enough, and often enough, and the world will have no choice but to reflect your new vibration. Stillness is not inactivity. It is the highest form of receptivity. When you are still within, you are not disengaged from creation. You are in perfect alignment with it. All true transformation begins in stillness. In the quiet center of your being, where there is no striving, no begging, no noise, energy moves most powerfully. This is not the stillness of emptiness, but the stillness of fullness, the kind that knows without needing to prove, the kind that feels without needing to explain. You do not need to shout at the universe for it to hear you. You only need to whisper through your vibration, and that whisper, born of inner calm, is louder than 1,000 anxious prayers. When you quiet the mind and surrender the struggle, you release the resistance that blocks energy from flowing. The truth is that you do not manifest by force. You allow by resonance. The more you struggle, the more you signal that you do not have. The more you relax, the more you signal that it is already done. Stillness is not laziness. It is supreme confidence. It is the resting posture of the one who knows that all things are already unfolding in their favor, and that there is nothing to chase. Energy cannot be chased, it must be allowed. Imagine walking through life with the storm swirling around you, the noise of criticism echoing in your ears, and the weight of doubt pressing against your chest, yet none of it touches you. Imagine being so steady, so unshakable, that no insult, no rejection, no setback could pierce your peace. This is the essence of acting as if nothing affects you. It is not about pretending that pain doesn't exist, but about choosing to rise above it, refusing to give others the power to dictate your emotions or your direction. The world will test you. People will misunderstand you, criticize you, and even betray you. Circumstances will change, sometimes suddenly, sometimes brutally. But the true measure of strength is not in how loudly you react, but in how calmly you stand. To act as if nothing affects you is to declare to life, I am not defined by what happens to me. I am defined by how I respond to it. Think about the great mountains. The winds howl, the storms rage, and yet they stand unmoved, timeless, and unshaken. The mountain does not chase after the storm. It simply remains. You too can choose to be that mountain. Every time you rise above drama, every time you refuse to engage with negativity, every time you keep your peace when chaos tries to invade your spirit, you prove your strength. When you act as if nothing affects you, you stop being controlled by outside forces. You step into a new kind of freedom, a freedom where people's opinions no longer chain you, where betrayal cannot break you, and where setbacks cannot destroy you. People may expect you to crumble, to cry, to beg, but instead you remain calm, composed, and centered. And that calmness unsettles them more than your anger ever could. Life is full of illusions designed to trick you into reacting. The enemy of your peace is not the event itself, but the way you perceive it. If you believe every attack is worth your attention, you scatter your energy. But if you act as if nothing affects you, you conserve your power. You stay rooted in the vision of who you are becoming. You stop explaining yourself to people who will never understand, and you start protecting your spirit like the priceless treasure it is. Do not mistake this mindset for weakness. It is not passive indifference, it is active strength. It takes far more courage to remain calm than to explode, far more discipline to stay focused than to be distracted. To act as if nothing affects you is to train your soul to value peace over chaos, focus over distraction, and growth over reaction. Your silence becomes power, your composure becomes a shield, and your ability to remain unaffected becomes the very thing that elevates you above those who tried to bring you down. People will whisper, they will wonder, they will try to provoke you, but when they see that you cannot be shaken, they will realize they cannot control you. And that realization will become your greatest victory. This is the art of walking through fire without being burned, of facing storms without drowning, of standing in the battlefield with your head held high. It is the decision to say, no matter what happens, my peace is mine, my focus is mine, my destiny is mine, and I will not hand them over to anyone or anything. So, today, I invite you to rise. To carry yourself with the quiet confidence of someone who knows that storms may roar, but they cannot move the mountain. To act as if nothing affects you, not because you are blind to pain, but because you have learned that your strength lies in mastering your response. This is the secret to inner power, the key to unstoppable progress, and the mark of someone who refuses to be broken. Every day, you are given a limited amount of energy. It is your fuel, your currency, your lifeline to create, to move forward, and to grow. Yet how often do people waste this precious resource by reacting to negativity, fighting battles that were never theirs to begin with, or defending themselves to those who don't matter? Protecting your energy is one of the greatest disciplines you will ever master. Think of yourself like a vessel filled with light. Every reaction to negativity is like poking a hole in that vessel, allowing your light to leak out. The more holes you allow, the dimmer your light becomes. Protecting your energy is about refusing to let anyone or anything drain you. Not every comment deserves your reply, not every insult deserves your attention, and not every betrayal deserves your tears. When you protect your energy, you stop giving people free access to your inner world. You build boundaries, not walls of bitterness, but gates of wisdom. Not everyone should have a key to your peace. Some people thrive on chaos. They stir storms just to watch you drown. The moment you realize this, you begin to see that your silence, your distance, and your refusal to engage are not signs of weakness, but acts of strength. Energy is life. When you waste it on petty arguments, endless explanations, or chasing validation, you rob yourself of the power needed to pursue your vision. Have you noticed how drained you feel after an argument? How heavy your spirit feels after engaging in negativity? That is the cost of unprotected energy. Now, contrast that with the peace of mind you feel when you choose to walk away, to stay silent, to let go. Protecting your energy doesn't just preserve your peace, it multiplies your strength. Protecting your energy also means protecting your thoughts. What you dwell on feeds your spirit. If you constantly replay the wrongs people have done to you, you're handing them free rent in your mind. And while they sleep peacefully, you're the one tossing and turning. But the moment you act as if nothing affects you, you take back control. You refuse to let their actions drain your nights and steal your mornings. It also extends to the company you keep. Some people will drain you without saying a word. You can feel their heaviness, their envy, their hidden resentment. Protecting your energy means being wise about who you allow close. Not everyone deserves a seat at your table. Not everyone should hear your dreams. You don't have to explain your vision to those who only seek to destroy it. Protecting your energy is not selfish, it is survival. It is saying, my peace is sacred, my focus is precious, my spirit is not for sale. Once you learn this, you realize how powerful it is to conserve your energy for what truly matters: building, growing, healing, and creating. Remember, storms will always exist, but you don't have to walk into every one. Sometimes the strongest choice is to step back, stay calm, and refuse to be dragged into battles that aren't yours. Protect your energy, and you will find that you always have enough strength for the battles that truly matter, the ones that build you, not the ones that break you. One of the greatest prisons a person can live in is the prison of other people's opinions. How many dreams have been buried because someone said, "You're not good enough"? How many lives have been lived in silence because the fear of judgment was louder than the voice of purpose? Detaching from people's opinions is the art of reclaiming your freedom. The truth is simple. No matter what you do, someone will always have something to say. If you rise, they will say you don't deserve it. If you fall, they will laugh at your pain. If you stay silent, they will assume weakness. If you speak, they will call you arrogant. This is the cycle of opinions, ever changing, never satisfied, always demanding. If you live by their voices, you will die by their silence. Detaching from people's opinions is not about ignoring constructive wisdom. It is about refusing to let criticism define your identity. You are not what others say about you. You are not their rumors, their whispers, or their doubts. You are what you choose to believe about yourself. The moment you detach, you stop seeking applause and you stop fearing rejection. You live for purpose, not popularity. Consider how much energy people waste trying to prove themselves. They dress to impress, they speak to please, they act to avoid criticism. And yet, no matter how hard they try, someone is still unhappy. That's the trap. Opinions shift like the wind, but truth remains. When you detach, you no longer chase approval. You realize that your worth was never in their hands. It was always in yours. Think of an eagle soaring in the sky. The crow may chase it, peck at it, try to distract it, but the eagle does not waste its time fighting back. It simply rises higher until the crow cannot breathe at that altitude. That is what detachment feels like. You don't argue with small minds. You rise above them. Detaching also means understanding that most opinions are projections. When people criticize your dreams, they're often revealing their own limitations. When they laugh at your ambition, they're exposing their own fear. When they doubt your strength, they're reflecting their own weakness. Why should you carry the weight of their brokenness? Their opinion is not your destiny. When you act as if nothing affects you, people's words lose their power. They may whisper, but you walk